Okay, good evening, everyone. I call the regular city council meeting to order. It is Monday, March 9th at 6 o'clock. Do a roll call. Mike?
Here.
Adam?
Here.
Dar?
Here.
Ben?
Here.
Lindsay?
Here.
And Maureen is excused. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is public comments. The council will receive public comments on any issue related to the agenda items. Limited discussion by the council may take place. If you have anything to say from the audience, this is the time. There's no public hearing. So if you have anything to say about whatever's on the agenda, now is the time to do it. You come to the podium, tell us who you are and where you live and what you want to talk about.
My name's Chris Wamacher. I live at 1443 Glen Ridge Drive. My wife and myself have owned that property on the corner of Glen Ridge Drive and Linden since 2012. We fully understand and accept that the vacant parcel at 1452 Glen Ridge Drive will eventually be developed. We are not opposed to responsible multifamily housing. However, we are deeply concerned about the scale and intensity of recently proposed housing projects on that parcel and the significant variances that are requested to make those possible. Over the past few weeks, I've spent many sleepless hours researching tax increment financing and spoke with civic leaders from other communities about how these districts work. Through that research, I've come to understand that TIF districts are most commonly used to attract industrial or commercial development. In those cases, the city uses future tax revenue from the development to pay for infrastructure improvements that help bring jobs and economic activity to the community. The idea is that business brings employees, those employees build homes, those homes begin contributing to the tax base immediately, helping support school services and infrastructure. But with residential projects funded through a TIF, the situation's different. A phrase I often read and often hear in meetings, and this was even said in last week's Planning Commission meeting, without the TIF, the project is not feasible for the developer. Again, not feasible for the developer. In other words, the primary benefit occurs for the developer today, while benefits to the taxpayers may not occur until 20 years down the road when the TIF finally closes. Proposed extension of TID District 6 includes two main properties, the Prescott High School and the undeveloped parcel at 1452 Glen Ridge Drive. The high school property is tax exempt, meaning it doesn't benefit from a TIF, but it must be included simply to connect the district to the undeveloped Glen Ridge parcel. 1452 Glen Ridge Drive is one of the largest undeveloped properties within the city limits. It's valuable land. Someone will eventually develop it. When they do, I hope, I pray, and ask the Prescott City Council that it can be done in a way that provides quality housing for young families and seniors while maintaining the character and safety, I have safety highlighted, and integrity of the surrounding neighborhood. But if the city pre-grants a TIF to this property before an approved proposal even exists, it reduces the city's bargaining power to ensure that that development happens in a way that truly benefits the community, as is stated in the City Development Project Incentive Guidelines under number 7 for desired qualifications, letter B. It says projects that provide improvements of value equal or higher than the surrounding properties and maintain the character and context of the area. Land is one thing we're not making any more of. Because of that, the city should not discount its value by offering incentives before they are truly needed. On the matter of the PUD request for the 1452 Glen Ridge Drive, I had presented many concerns last week at the Planning Commission meeting. But the most important concern is the proposed requires substantial deviation from established zoning limits on the principal and accessory structures. If approved, it signals that ordinance caps are flexible when density objectives are prioritized. Zoning regulations exist to provide predictability, fairness, and protection for both current and future residents. The question before the board is not whether the housing is needed, it's whether this parcel, under its current zoning, should be developed at nearly triple the structural and population intensity of the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed dense population of that one parcel is a higher population than some of the villages in the surrounding area even. I also made this statement at last week's Planning Commission meeting, and I'll say it again tonight. We only have one chance to get this right. Once the motion passes, we all live with the decision. Our families, our neighbors, our children, our grandchildren, and all future generations of Prescott. Tonight, I respectfully ask the City Council to vote no on the proposed extension of TID District 6 and no on the PUD overlay. Please reserve TIF incentives for projects that truly require them, particularly industrial and commercial developments that bring jobs and long-term economic growth to our community. By doing so, you will show the residents Glen Ridge, Linden, Dexter, Shane Park Circle, and the entire city of Prescott that you value our neighborhoods, our investments, and our quality of life as citizens of Prescott. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Tourism Committee minutes from February 10th, City Council minutes from February 23rd, Personnel Committee minutes from February 25th, TID Joint Board Review minutes, Planning Commission minutes from March 2nd, General Fund balances from February, cash balances from February, paid invoice report from February, Fairy Wonderland food and truck special event permit, 2 to 3 days per month throughout the summer of 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda 1 through 9.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees and commissions. Nothing for finance. Planning Commission report. We had a public hearing. We talked about the PUD overlay, planned unit development. We had many people speak, and most of all of it was against having that. And I mean, you can read all the comments. I'm not going to read them to you. But what it boiled down to is we closed the public hearing, and then the Planning Commission voted a negative vote to the PUD overlay and the building of the 3 buildings. Then we had the public hearing on the tax incremental district number 6, and Dave Hovel motioned to table on TID number 6, and later withdrew the motion, and then it passed without a negative voice, 7-0. Then Sean Lenz from,
6-1, Mayor, the TID vote was 6-1.
it says 7-1 on here, 7-0 on here. Okay, then Sean Lenz from Ellers gave an overview of how the TIF finance works. Said, you know, it's an incentive concept. It's a pay-as-you-go model. where the developer fronts all eligible costs and be repaid over time. We closed the public hearing, and the motion was to recommend the approval of Resolution 0126, approving the amendment boundaries of TID District Number 6. Then we talked about the Walnut Circle development. Excuse me. All the homes that'll be there are going to have grinder pumps individually. That has to be maintained and placed by the homeowners. So we approved the preliminary plat and erosion control plans for Walnut and the developer's agreement. We have a sod improvement program going on again. The planning commissioners will all vote on that and give their recommendation. We did the comprehensive plan updates. Josh from Cedar Corps came. This is something we've been doing for like 9 months to a year, talking about our comprehensive plan update. So there's made some minor adjustments, so we'll be bringing that forward pretty soon. And that's all I have. Did I miss anything, Matt?
No, I guess just the vote for the PUD recommendation of denial was 5-2, and the TID recommendation was 6-1-4, TID amendment, just over. I think there was a little confusion there, but.
Okay, so then next Planning Commission meeting is Monday, April 6th. Parks and Public Works, Monday, March 16th at 5. Health and Safety, Monday, May 11th at 5. Then Personnel Committee, you want to take that, Matt, since Marine's on here?
Yeah, I can. I just, let me find it here in my packet. So the Personnel Committee met last Wednesday. First, we discussed the current school resource officer agreement, and basically the fact right now that agreement has a flat amount in it. So the committee reviewed that, and was approval for reopening it and discussing turning that into an annual percentage change to keep up with inflation and cost of living increases. So we'll be reaching out to the school district regarding that. The current agreement goes through July of 2026 before the new cycle starts in August of 2026. Then we discussed the compensatory time policy addition to our Prescott employee handbook as it relates to public works. The committee decided to table that and request that staff reach out to like communities to see what their policies are like so they could compare and contrast before they move that forward to council and putting it in the handbook. And then finally, we reviewed the Public Works organizational study, and the decision was that we'd first present that to staff and go over that with the Public Works Department, and then once that is complete, we'll bring it to council to formally approve the study. After that, then we discussed in other business establishing some guidelines for the use of AI, which we are going to work on for the next personnel committee to bring forward a draft policy and procedures for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to council if they have any questions.
Okay, so then their next meeting will be Wednesday, May 6th at 5 o'clock. Next item on the agenda is communications and new business. The council receive public comments on any issue not related to the agenda items. Limited discussion by the council may take place. However, no action will be taken on any item. This includes receiving written requests or documentation, possible action at a future meeting. Okay, hearing none. Next item is a consideration and possible action on a resolution approving an amendment to the project plan and boundaries of tax incremental District 6. Matt?
So I'm going to turn it over to Sean Lentz. He's with Ellers, who is our municipal financial advisors. So, Sean?
Thank you, Matt. We've got a presentation to go through. As I move through it, if the council has any questions, feel free to interrupt me. You don't have to wait to the end. I'm fine with that. I'll say at the outset that the amendment was set up with the project that you've been talking about related to the PUD in mind. But the way the tax increment plans work is when you do a tax increment plan or you do an amendment to a plan, what it does is it allows you to use tax increment, the tool, for a project in a particular area. That's what the action you would take would do. But that action does not require that you do that. So by reviewing this today, and this is kind of what the Plan Commission talked about too last week, you are giving consideration to using tax increment financing in this area, and you're describing how it might be used in this area. But by approving an amendment to the plan, you wouldn't be automatically approving the use. If you decided to go forward with something down the road, you would still need to do a development agreement. You'd still need to approve the project individually. So just to let you know, we will be making reference certainly to a project like what was being discussed, that it's in the project plan. So it's there, but again, by being in the plan does not mean that it's a project that the council is then saying we absolutely have to go forward with it. It's in the plan for a reason because you're giving it strong consideration, but it doesn't mean that you've approved the project at that point. They do have to work in those steps. Okay? Okay. So just a little bit of background. Tax increment financing is a tool that has been in the statutes since the 70s. It's a tool that really allows communities to target a development or redevelopment area in the community that you want to direct investments to. And the financing end of it is that you, by putting it into a tax increment district and taking proactive action to try to make something happen on that property, you get a tool that any new tax revenue from new development on that property, the city would collect 100% of that revenue for up to a 20-year period maximum. And you can't use those dollars for anything, but you can use them to pay back incentives or costs associated with trying to get that development to go in the first place. Okay. So another way to discuss how that works is on this chart that you see up on the screen right now. We are looking at adding property to tax increment district number 6, which is a very new district. You created that in 2024. You could have looked at the possibility of doing a specific individual district just for this property, but given this district is so new, there's a lot of synergy there to do it as part of that district rather than creating a whole new district. The process of doing an amendment would be, step one, we'd have to determine what the base value is of the property that the city proposes to put into tax increment district number 6, the amended boundaries. As was stated earlier, there's really two parcels, areas that are a part of that. One is the school district property, and two is the property where, the undeveloped property where the potential apartment project was discussed. The base value of the school district property is 0 because it is school district property. The other property I think is about $150,000 taxable value to it right now. That value, the $150,000, in the past has been taxed by all the taxing jurisdictions, and revenue from that $150,000 in value, city gets some of it, school district, tech college, and the county. They all get a share of that taxes on that $150,000. When you create a tax increment district, any new value up and above, in our example, the 150,000, that's categorized as increment value. It's shown in purple on the screen. Increment value is taxed at the exact same rate as any other value in the city. But instead of tax revenue on the increment value going to all the taxing jurisdictions, it goes to the city, 100% of it. So you're getting all of the taxing jurisdiction shares. But the revenue, again, can't be used for any general expense of the city. It has to be targeted to costs associated with promoting development or redevelopment in this case, in the amended area, okay? And then after whatever incentive the council would determine is necessary to try to encourage development on that site has been repaid, then the tax increment district closes, or 20 years, which would be the maximum in this case. At that point, the base value, which has always been tax base for each of the jurisdictions, and the increment value now become taxable value for the general funds of the city, the school district, the tech college, and the county at that point. So that's how a TIF or an amendment to a TIF works. The key element is what's called the but-for test. But for using this tool, the property will not develop as the city would like to see, or potentially not develop at all. And part of the discussion that we've had with the proposal that you've gotten thus far is they've given us a pro forma of their proposed project. And we've looked at that pro forma and looked at the costs that they've shown for doing an apartment, as in this case, on the site, and determined that without the use of tax increment financing, it will be unlikely that anyone would be willing to invest to do that type of a project on that site, because they simply wouldn't get enough rate of return to justify the investment. They'd be better off just investing in U.S. Treasuries or something different, because they can't. The only reason you'd go forward with a riskier investment like an apartment project is you get a higher rate of return on it than what you could get, say, putting your money into a CD at the bank. So that analysis is done, and that's part of the but-for analysis. Without that analysis, if the development could just occur on the site on its own, then you wouldn't want to use TIF for it, because it wouldn't be necessary. Okay, so any questions on this before the rest of the presentation is a little bit more specific about the project cost being added to the plan. Okay. So part of this we've already touched on. This area in green is the existing boundaries of tax increment district number 6. This area is currently a mixed-use district, and a mixed-use district under state laws for promoting a mixture of industrial, commercial, and residential development. The gentleman had mentioned that kind of the history of TIF and some research. His research isn't wrong. Historically speaking, TIDs probably were more used for industrial and commercial development and for blight elimination. But I would say in the last 10 years, TIDs that I've been involved with, residential has been a huge component of them. And the reason is, I think you've probably heard, is affordable housing is a definite challenge all across the country and in Wisconsin. And in fact, the state of Wisconsin changed and added mixed-use districts as a potential tool that communities can use because of that fact, that residential, before they didn't have residential as an option in TIDs, but they've added that in these mixed-use districts because they know it's a challenge in many areas throughout Wisconsin. The purple area is, again, the proposed boundary to be added to the district. Boundaries have to be contiguous, so you can't have, we couldn't, as an example, just say the green area on the top and the one single parcel on the south end of the TID. We wouldn't be able to do that under Wisconsin law for tax increment. It's got to be a contiguous area. Okay. Now we put in the project plan amendment, sorry, this thing printed up kind of strangely here. Oops. We put in two new costs into the project plan that was created in 2004 related to potential development in the amended area. And those include a $5 million budget for development incentives, could be infrastructure, could be site improvements, in order to facilitate a new development, much like what was discussed as part of the PUD on the site that we're adding that's not in the school district property. And then secondly, a much smaller additional expense related to recreational equipment, again, around that mixed-use residential portion that you're oftentimes going to need improvements in the area of park or other amenities in the general area around the tax increment district. So those are the two added project costs to the original costs that were in the 2024 tax increment district number 6 plan. What we've also added in the project plan, we had a number of projections of new value being constructed on this area, primarily over here, but some here and expansions in this area as well. The property that was in TID number 6 originally. To the plan, we've also added $15.7 million in value from the proposed apartment project that you've been considering. So that would be new increment value up and above the base value that's on that $150,000 that I talked about. So that $15 million it would be expected to come in over a couple of years as buildings are built out on that site being added to the tax increment district. And that would then add an additional revenue stream to the tax increment district than was in the original plan. By adding another $15 million in value, obviously the total revenue of the district then would be greater. Now, how would that revenue be proposed to be used? The mayor mentioned earlier the concept for the assistance for the property to be added to the tax increment district is in an approach that we call a pay-as-you-go approach. So there's a traditional approach, usually to fund TIDs, and a pay-as-you-go approach. The traditional approach is one in which the city typically will either advance money from another fund of the city to pay for a project and then use future revenues from the tax increment district to pay yourself back, or in the alternative, you'll borrow money and then you'll have a debt service payment that you'll have to make each year, and you would use revenue from the tax increment district to make annual debt service payments. So that's more the traditional model. The pay-as-you-go model is, from my perspective, the preferred model when it can be enacted as part of a TID, because with the pay-as-you-go model, the development group is incurring the costs up front, but the city is assisting it with their costs by giving them a development agreement that states if you create new value in the TID district, in this case, the hypothetical $15.7 million, if you create new value there, we, the city, will collect the new taxes on that value, and then we'll pay it back to you up to a maximum amount over a series of years. That is a preferred model from my perspective, because that's not money that you are taking a risk on borrowing or advancing, and you're also not taking the risk that if something happens that the $15.7 million doesn't generate as much revenue or doesn't happen the way you expected, you as a city are only committing to pay back the revenue you actually collect. So if you don't collect the revenue, you don't have to make the payments. And typically it's not an agreement to pay 100%. It's usually anywhere between 75-25 to 90-10. 90%, 10%, 75%, 25% in a pay-as-you-go approach. And so that projection here, there's a lot of numbers here because this is for the whole TID plan, not just the amended area. The revenue would be here from the hypothetical $15.7 million, and this in purple was the projected pay-as-you-go payment back to the developer each year from revenues only from the new tax revenue from the $15.7 million. Okay, so that was the crux of the amendment to TID 6 is the new boundaries and then this particular project for developing the site adjacent to the school property. Okay, so any questions on what's primarily in the amendment? Okay. Well, then the last point that I wanted to include for discussion, one is you may be thinking, okay, you mentioned earlier that while the TID's in place, tax revenue on the increment value, the city gets all of it. The other taxing jurisdictions don't get any of the new tax revenue on taxes on the increment value. So because of that, the state included when you create a TID or do an amendment, you have to conduct what's called joint review board meetings. And we did that before the Plan Commission meeting last week. We met with the school, the county, well, this county was unable to attend that one. Yeah, the school, the tech college, the city had a member, the mayor was there, and then we also had a public member. So those 4 members, and we've sent all the information to the county, so they have that as well. We had a discussion with them. We informed them of what was being proposed. They didn't have to take any vote on it at that point. The second meeting was the Plan Commission, and as the mayor mentioned, at the end of the Plan Commission public hearing, we took a vote of the Plan Commission, and it was a 6-1 vote for moving the process forward, the boundary and the project plan to the city council. The next step in the process is the council considering the amendment, which again adds the new boundaries and the new project costs that we just reviewed. An approval by the council of the project plan, the resolution tonight, and the boundary change would then trigger a final meeting of the joint review board. And that was preliminarily scheduled at the March 2 meeting for April 6th. So that would be the last step in the process of amending TID number 6. And again, just as a reminder, the council, the approval would add the boundaries and add the potential project expenditures to the overall project plan of TID number 6, but it would still take future action of the council to really enact those abilities by being in the plan, and that would be through a future development agreement that you would enter into at a later date. Okay. Matt, anything I might be missing?
I guess just the one thing just to clarify, when we say the city receives the full value of the increment, what we're saying is it goes into a special fund that we control, but to Sean's point,
We're one in the same.
it all has to be spent within the project plan that is approved. We can't spend it on operating expenditures like we would our normal funds that we receive. So, yeah.
And your auditors are very diligent about that they say this, it has to be in this fund.
So if we approve the boundary change and nothing happens on that property, this project doesn't move forward. So the tax goes on like it always was, it doesn't go into the tax incremental district, or does it? The tax on the empty land?
Yeah, the current value, I think it's 150,000. By putting that parcel into the tax increment district, that does not get taxed by the tax increment district. The tax revenue on that 150 continues to, you are not taking that away from any of the taxing jurisdictions. Okay. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Josh? Josh?
Sure.
We're gonna get you a name tag.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. The Ellers here, I'll
For a
put you on.
long time, I don't know.
It happens. It happens.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No worries.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Thank
Yep.
you.
So before you tonight is then, based on Sean's presentation, consideration of approval of Resolution 12-26, approving amendment to the project plan and boundaries of tax increment district number 6. So, John, over to council just for-
So we have a resolution, 226, resolution approving the amendment to the project plan boundaries tax incremental district number 6. Now remember, all you're doing is approving the amendment to the boundaries. So that's what's before you. So I'll entertain a motion.
I just have one question, sorry.
Sure, Carl.
If we do change the boundaries but don't move forward with the apartment project, what kind of, I guess, recourse does that have on that property for future development or interest? Any?
It would give us the ability to still consider using TID for future opportunities.
Does it have any
that
other
would-
negative consequences on who would be in, like,
Negative consequences, if there was a developer who wanted to do something smaller scale and wanted to didn't need assistance, then that would result in the ability for all of that tax generation to immediately go to all taxing jurisdictions immediately rather than going into the TID. So it's kind of a one or the other.
I have one thing. We have used these for housing and apartments and stuff in the past, correct?
The city of Prescott,
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, the city of Prescott has not used any TID assistance for residential development in the past.
The one project that may blur the lines a little bit.
That down by the river.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I should, and I should have mentioned that to you, Matt, when I was doing my presentation. The TID number 4, down by the river, is a blight elimination district. And the residential restriction that was not available back then was for newly platted residential. That property had been platted before, so you could do and assist a redevelopment like that condo project was, but I think that's the only one. Matt,
Sorry, yes,
is
that's correct. The
historically.
condominium
Yep.
project that's up along the river was
Yep.
used.
Yep.
So, I was not here for that, but I forgot about that, sorry.
That was before I was here.
Can you accept questions from the audience at this point?
No, can't do that right now. That all had to be done at the public hearing. Sorry.
Well, I am comfortable with making a motion to, let me take a look at this a little bit better. To move forward with approval of the resolution approving an amendment to the project plan and boundaries of tax increment district number 6.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 226. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
hi,
Okay, motion carried. The next item on the agenda is approval of the Monarch Paving Company proposal for repaving of the City Hall Library parking lot in the amount of $63,215. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So within our capital fund for this year, we have planned to repave the parking lot at City Hall here in the library. So we reached out to Monarch Paving to give us a quote, and they have supplied that to us for a total cost of $63,215. Per the budget that was approved by council, we set aside $63,726. So the project to repave it comes just under that amount. So basically what's being proposed is we have Public Works completely rip out the existing asphalt, and then Monarch Paving would come in and pave, and they'd be doing it in 2 lifts. So before you tonight is just approving that proposal. Since it is under the budgeted amount, we don't require a resolution or a roll call vote since the money has already been allocated. So I'll turn it over to Councilor.
I talked to Mike Kinnaman, and I asked him, I said, did you did you put it out for, bids? And he said he did. And Asphalt Plus, here in Prescott, that job's too big for them. And the other person they reached out to did not respond. Monarch was the only company that responded. So that's why the proposal's going to Monarch.
I'll make a motion to approve, you want a motion for this, right, Matt?
Yes.
Yes.
Monarch Paving Company proposal for repaving of City Hall and the library parking lot in the amount of $63,215.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Monarch Paving Company for repaving the City Hall parking lot. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried, thank you. We have an ordinance 0226, an ordinance amending 470-3E of the City of Prescott Municipal Code, which is the sewer connection fee, second reading. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So since the last meeting when we discussed this, there hasn't been any comments or objections to the change. Again, this is being done to consider developments that are too small to put in a full lift station. Additionally, Public Works is more in favor of not requiring lift stations whenever possible because it's a lot of expense in terms of maintenance and keeping them up to standards. So what's being proposed in this ordinance is just this simply allowing the opportunity for council to consider waiving sewer development or sewer connection fees in the case when homeowners are building new homes and have to use grinder pumps and install them to pump their sewage up to a manhole that can then be gravity fed. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions. Staff is recommending this approval before you tonight as part of the second reading. However, council does have the option of sending it to another reading if you wish.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 02-26, an ordinance amending 470.3 .e of City of Prescott Municipal Code sewer connection fee. I am making a motion that this be the second and final reading.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve ordinance 0226. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item is consideration of tabling a PUD request for 1452 Glen Ridge Drive, ordinance 03-26, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Prescott until the April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Council, this is the project that ultimately came before you in February for the concept plan that was approved, and then what we've been discussing tonight in terms of the tax increment district number 6. So this project is being called The Bluffs. The developer is Capital Investment Partners. As mentioned, the Plan Commission approved the concept plan on February 2nd. And City Council approved the concept plan on February 9th. The site is a 3.52 acre site that is currently vacant and consists of shrubs and trees. The zoning is an R4 high density residential zone property. It is the only undeveloped R4 high density residential property within the City of Prescott. Per our zoning codes, density is anything in 9+ units or more. The Bluffs proposal is proposing 3 principal buildings and 4 accessory structures. The 4 buildings, first the one to the east is a 42-unit, 12,980 square feet. The one in the middle is 40 units, 12,980 square feet, and then the west one is 24 units, 9,902 square feet. Specifically why this project is requesting a PUD, or why it was requesting a PUD, is the R4 zoning limits only allow for 1 principal structure and 2 accessory structures. So per this site plan, they were requesting for 3 principal structures and 4 accessory structures. No other zoning relief is being requested. They are compliant then with everything else in terms of setbacks. The requirement for the front yard is 20 feet. What's being proposed is 25. Side yard, 12 feet is the requirement. They are proposing over 25. Accessory interior side yard is 5 feet. They are proposing 5 feet. And the height requirement is 4 floors. They are proposing 3 floors. Impervious surface, they can't exceed 70%. They are proposing 65.3, so it meets all of those standards. Parking access in the fire department review. Parking per our code Multifamily must have one stall for each bedroom. Parking or storage of all recreational vehicles, boat trailers, and similar equipment is prohibited for parking within the parking stalls and drive aisles as well. Pedestrian access, trail connection to the west. Oh, sorry, to go back to parking for a second. They're proposing 151 stalls. Required to have 151 stalls, and they are proposing 180. I do just want to make a point too. We as a city are not allowed to say, you're proposing a parking in the garage. You can't do that. We can't count that. That was one of the things that came up in Plan Commission, is that somehow we're allowed to say, a garage can't be counted as a parking stall. Just as we have many issues with property owners who decide to fill up their garages with storage and then they end up parking off their driveway and we have to use code enforcement to go after them. That similar issue is exactly why I would love for us to be able to say, like, hey, you can only use a garage to park your cars, but ultimately we as a city are not allowed to make that determination when we're looking at these parking requirements. Trail connection then goes to the west is what they're proposing. We would be looking at doing a trail connection from Dexter Street that would go all the way over to Borner. The sidewalk itself, there's two crosswalks at the intersection of Dexter and Glenridge, one that goes to the east and one that goes south. In terms of fire department review, the fire department did require a secondary access off of Glenridge. This is what this is proposing. Additionally, they wanted the developer to look at the radiuses of the turns, and that's what this map is showing, that essentially a 47-foot truck, which is shown in this, the largest truck we currently have within our department is 40 feet, can make these turns. Updated FDC locations, so they work with the fire department to place those. Worked on then placing higher locations based on the department's request, so they are meeting the standards as required. Landscape standards, trees, they're required to have 32. They're proposing 37, which is compliant. For shrubs, they are required to have 191. They're proposing 215. In terms of architectural standards, per City Code 635-80, we regulate architectural standards for multifamily, commercial, and industrial within the community. Based on what they're proposing, they're including materials called for brick, for quarry gray, and cultured stone. So they are meeting our architectural standards in that regard, and additionally, they are required to screen all mechanical equipment and refuse areas per city standards. Exterior lighting as a condition of approval. With any exterior lighting installed, they must comply with 635-75 to prevent glare and light trespass onto adjacent properties. Right now, they aren't showing that, but that would be one of the conditions that is required. The stormwater pond is then off to being proposed at the southwest corner of the location of the project. It is a wet detention pond located in the southwest corner. It meets the total suspended solids reduction requirement, peak flow addressed. The disturbance is 4.14 acres, so per the DNR standards, they are required to get a notice of intent to disturb the land, and then erosion control permit would be required prior to land disturbance. For utilities, we put together just a proposal to show that water and sewer are able to meet capacity for this sort of development. Based on an average multifamily user within the city, the whole project in total would use an additional 8,162 gallons a day. Right now, the average throughout the city is 317,000 gallons a day. With the new development, it would be just under 326,000 gallons a day. Prescott's wells have a capacity, if they were to go nonstop, which isn't really feasible. We never use that much water, but of 3.6 million. So we are able to make that capacity. Additionally, the sewer, 8,162. We have a total sewer capacity of 500,000 gallons per day. 344,000 is what's the average use right now, based on 2025. With the new development, it'd be 352,162 gallons of additional sewage per day. So as part of this, they were looking at a certified survey map, or what is still being considered. The easements, there is an easement, and that was one of the reasons why the 3-building concept was being looked at. This property has a water main that runs directly in the middle of it. Right now, it is only a 5-foot easement on each side of the main. This is being proposed for 20 foot, so it would give additional easement width for that water main. And one of the things that we were discussing in the fee in lieu of development of a city park or dedication of land because there is already a park just north of this. Additionally, though, after talking with the school district, they also wanted to have us look at the option of potentially putting it across the street at option B. Both of these options are still under consideration. We'll get into that in here in a second. So on February 2nd, we had our public comments and our public hearing regarding this site. The comments consisted of people believed that the site was too dense or had too many apartments. Again, they are meeting our city code, so we are not allowed to dictate how many apartments are being developed on the site. Concerns about traffic and vehicle impact, impacts on school from new development, use of garage parking, concerns that they'll be used for storage, precedent of using PUDs over relying on the current zoning standards, concerns of public safety services and infrastructure, concerns regarding school property and the creation of unsafe conditions with kids playing in the area. So based on that, the Planning Commission recommended denial of the resolution related to the ordinance amending the official zoning map to apply a PUD overlay at 1452 Glenridge Drive due to concerns raised during the public hearing. Additionally, the Planning Commission then tabled the other items related to the development at 1452 Glenridge Drive, specifically the site plan, CSM, and the park location recommendation. So moving forward, the developer is planning on putting together 2 new concept plans. The first concept plan will be one building of 120 units of apartments with 4 stories. We'll have 1 principal building and 2 accessory structures. A second site plan will be put together that will be 3 stories, 1 principal building of 106 units and a maximum of 2 accessory structures. The third concept plan will be the one that is being proposed already or has been proposed to look at that. And then the developer will have a traffic analysis completed on the impact of the development. And just to be clear, these 2 proposals will not require to have the PUD. It will be simply just a site plan review. As long as they're meeting our specifications, we do not have the ability to turn down that request. The PUD process gives us complete discretion if we want to move forward or not. So with that, the Planning Commission will be reviewing their 3 outs at their next meeting on April 6th and give a recommendation. Planning Commission will also consider their tabled items from March 2nd regarding the site plan, CSM, and park recommendations. So what staff is recommending before you tonight, so allow Planning Commission to give those reviews, is table the PUD request for 1452 Glenridge Drive, Ordinance 03-26, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Prescott until April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to Council for comments and questions.
I don't have any questions. Anybody? Okay. I will make a motion to table the PUD request for 1452 Glenridge Drive, ordinance 03-26, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Prescott, Wisconsin, until the April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to table the PUD request for 1452 Glenridge Drive. Is there any discussion on that motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. So other business, don't forget the 2026 spring election on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Have any other business, Matt? Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.